Hello dear students, welcome to the ILP program. Welcome to the Science and Technology Strategy session. I'm your teacher for Science and Technology. My name is Sneha Ramesh. I have several years of experience in teaching UPSC aspirants. I've been with you, at least some of you would have seen me through certain videos on YouTube with certain institutes that I've worked in the past. So I've been on this journey to help UPSC aspirants for the past 7 years or so. I'll be taking up science and technology for you, and today's session is a brief idea about what is science and technology for UPSC, how you can cover it along with the classes, the current affairs part of it, and essentially what should you be looking in when you study science and technology. Okay, so without much delay, let's go into what exactly this subject means. See, this subject, as from the name itself, has two parts. There is science and there's technology. So it just so happens that most of us focus, when we study this particular subject for UPSC, we focus a lot on the technology part. For example, you might know a lot about this technology called as scramjet technology. Okay, suppose, don't worry if you don't know also, but understand that when in the course of the journey of UPSC, when you come across scramjet, you would know so much about scramjet technology, like what is the different kind of engine used over there, what is the speed of it, what are the specifications of it. But you would not focus on the science part of it. And it just so happens that this is from where UPSC would frame its questions. Now, why is it that UPSC aspirants don't bother so much on the science part? For one, it's a difficult thing to comprehend by your own self. Especially now this here, I would not make a distinction between a science background student or a non-science background student. But for any category of students, going and crunching behind and finding what is the science part of certain things is quite difficult. Why? Because it's not ready-made given in any way. You won't get it in an article that is mentioned. For example, take the scramjet technology. You would know everything about the technology, but the very fact that it's your Newton's third law, that would be the science of it, you would not find in any Hindu article. You would find the Newton's third law in your NCERT textbook, but you would not know that the scramjet technology that you have studied is related to this. For that, you need one more step as a connecting link. And this is where I come in, because I'll help you form these connections between a technology that you know and the science part of it. I'll be teaching you both the technology and the science, thus helping you to understand the connecting link between both. I hope that is clear. Now, before I go into and discuss what we will learn under this, I need to first, address a common concern that I see amongst my students who come from non-science background. Most of the time, they ignore this subject, or they so much so as learn some parts here and there, but that is not enough. Because if a detailed question is asked, learning parts here and there will not suffice you to answer that question. And all the time that you've just sat for, maybe you've spent 10 hours for science and tech to learn things here and there, but then still you're not able to solve the question. What is the point? That 10 hours has gone into a waste at this point, right? So here I want you to please understand the classes that I'll be taking for science and tech are not going to be in a way where it will be for engineering level students or your NEET aspirants or anything. It will be from the point of view that even a non-science background student can understand these terms. So at the same time, I want you also, that is the science students who feel a little bit less confident about this subject, also to understand that, see, this is something that we can do. And let me in you on a little bit of a secret. I'll tell you that most of the times when science and tech questions are coming nowadays in UPSC, you do find your science background students making such errors in the examination hall. The reason being that they tend to overthink on a knowledge that they know and end up marking something wrong. So here, let me assure you, your classes will be taken in a very simplistic manner. At the same time, you will have to build the confidence on the level that, okay, so I know most of you would have hated science so much that you would have left it back in 10th standard or 8th or something like that. But you have to do this for UPSC. Don't think that, okay, I'll leave science and tech and I will do with all the rest of the subjects, which is history, geography. I'll be the expert over there. Let me tell you, in UPSC, especially the prelims, there's nothing as being an expert of anything. UPSC in itself is a very generalistic exam. The prelims, more or so, is also a very generalistic exam. So being the expert in any subject is practically impossible, because UPSC has now made it into a scenario where you can be a PhD holder in history, but still they will manage to put in a question where you will be baffled. So don't think I will leave S&T and I'll compensate for the rest, because those subjects are not getting any easier. With all this set, let's go into few of the things that I want to discuss today, starting off with what exactly comprises the idea of science and tech. When it comes to your prelims, UPSC has been very graciously given you one heading called as general science. Can you imagine? It's just a one-word thing called as general science, and from this, they've managed to ask a lot of questions. So much so that I've heard students say, in general science, they ask everything under the sun. But that is for a very inexperienced fresher aspirant that it seems that they're asking everything under the sun. With years of teaching students and years of interacting with students, we now know that it's not everything under the sun. It's very specific themes that they ask. So, for example, very recently I was doing the revision series for 2023 prelims. You can find the video of that on YouTube also. So, wherein for science and tech, I have not taken the entire things under the sun. How can anyone do that? I have chosen specific themes. Now, how do you come to those specific themes? You come to those specific themes through a proper analysis of your previous year questions. So, again, don't worry. We will be doing that in the course of our class. So, understand, your idea of general science includes your current affairs related to it, the basic science related to it. These are the both things that would come under the idea of general science. Now, moving on to the next set of portions. So now when you hear basic science, what tends to happen is those students who think it's everything under the sun, now will be guided by UPSC syllabus itself, and that will make you realize like, no, it's not everything under the sun. So what exactly is it? So let's look at the headings. There's a heading which says Science and Technology, Developments and their Applications and Effects in Everyday Life. Two things. So keep these pointers in mind. I want you to have a very clear idea. Tomorrow when you read a current affair, maybe in your newspaper, you have to know these things. You have to know what the development is. So for example, if they found a new vaccine, what should be your prime concern? Would you be going and mugging up, okay, this vaccine was found by some researchers in Oxford University and now their names are given. So you will be sitting and saying, okay, the scientist, you don't have to do that. UPSC will never ask you a question on that basis. What will you have to know? You have to know what that development is, what is the science behind it, what is the application of it. Application is who can use that development, and the effect of it in everyday life. For example, if it's a vaccine, what would it amount to in the science and tech? So will it lead to, for example, if they found an mRNA vaccine, will it lead to something more developed? Is this something that is already at the pinnacle of the development? All of these things is something you have to understand. Adding along with it, achievements of Indians in science and technology. So let me just again urge you on the fact, you are seeing several achievements by most of you would be starting your preparation right now, but at the end of almost 1 year, trust me, you are going to see ISRO sending ISRO sending spacecrafts, NASA sending spacecrafts, Japanese agencies sending spacecrafts, and you're like, okay, I cannot take all of this in my head. Instead, it just feels like I am going into the space. So at this point, what can you do? Again, prioritize. You have to focus more on the Indian agencies which are there, the Indian inventions which are there, because this is what you have to know as an ideal UPSC aspirant. Then coming to this particular topic, which is indigenization of technology and developing new technology, I would say this is more or less a mains related aspect. And then you have awareness in the fields of IT, space, computers, robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and issues related to IPR. This is your GS3 syllabus as of your mains. This is taken from your main syllabus. Now understand, from your main syllabus, they've given much more clarity than your prelims syllabus. Put both of this together. This is what a UPSC aspirant should be focusing on when it comes to your S&T. So IT, space, computers, robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, all of this is important for us from this aspect. So since now we've mapped the syllabus, so you have a prelims component, you have a mains component, and in the mains component also you have these specific categories. And apart from that, in your GS paper 4, sometimes they would ask you some science and tech ethic related question. For example, there is a new discovery that is there, and this discovery is going to serve millions of people, but then this particular organization which has created it has to be rewarded for their research activities. So what will you choose? Will you give them an IPR patent related benefit, or will you ask them to give the vaccine to the entire population? These are all ethical questions for the organization. So you have to also look at it from that ethics perspective, but then that is again 1 or maximum 2 questions. Here you have a major chunk of your S&T questions getting asked from your prelims part and your GS3 part. Now, when I'm saying a major chunk of questions, let's try and explore what exactly is the trend specifically for prelims, because for mains, more or less your number of questions come up to 3 to 4. When I'm saying 3 to 4, the maximum marks that can be asked from this range, maximum I'm saying, is a 50 to 55 marks. That's it, not more than that. So your mains, if in your larger aspect of almost a 250 marks paper, 50 marks, and you would be exploring questions which are very direct also. So it's more or less a much more easy to deal with area. The difficult part is your prelims. Why? Because let's look at it. If you take from 2013 onwards, I have the statistics over here. From 13 questions, it has dipped to 9, 10, sometimes even as low as 6. But right now, when you look from 2018, so 2018 we've had 13 questions. From now on, if you look at it, we've constantly had 10 to 11 questions. So even post 2018, we are following a clear pattern. When I'm saying we, it means UPSC is following a clear pattern of having 10 to 11 science and tech questions. Now, you must be thinking it's 10 questions. What is the big deal? You have polity, which is like 20 questions. You have economy, which is 15 questions. Science and tech is 10 questions. But the aspect being, if you take a polity or an economy question, moreover, polity or history questions, it just so tends to happen every single time in the last 5 years. If you take the day prelims exam gets over, by evening we have a set of informal answer keys, and then the next thing you know is you've so much ambiguity on what is the answer, because be it polity, be it history, different sources say different things. I totally remember a Rigveda related question. Ideally, we would think it was a very factual question, but then if horse was present during a Vedic period or so, or no, not Vedic period, horse was present during the Indus Valley period, it should be fairly factual, right? But no. At the end, it just so happened there were so many conflicting ideas. Now, way to this, if you look at science and tech, the ambiguity areas in this are relatively less, which means you might write 10 to 11 questions, but ambiguity might be there for 1 or maximum 2 questions in comparison to maybe a history area or a polity area. So again, once you do 10 questions in science and tech, you can at least be sure 8 questions of it will have a fixed answer, and you can be sure of those marks. But the other thing is, again, left to you. Will have to wait till the day of the prelims results comes out, and if you make it, yeah, good. So all those ambiguity things has worked for you, or else you haven't. So this is the reason why these 10 to 11 questions, even though it's so less in number, makes a huge difference when it comes to your UPSC. This is the first thing. Second thing I want to observe is, see, now look at this particular question. This came in 2011 period. Look at the kind of question of it. It's a very simple question. Satellites for telecommunication relay are kept in a geostationary orbit. A satellite is said to be in such an orbit when the orbit is geosynchronous, the orbit is circular, the orbit lies in the plane of the Earth's equator, the orbit is an altitude of 22,236 kilometers. I'll just let you in on something. This is something I'll teach you also, but this question is a very simple question. Very simple to the point being, I just have to know one thing here. And the thing is, the geostationary or geosynchronous, whatever orbits are these kinds, geostationary, when it has geo involved in it, it ideally is at a height of 36,000 kilometers from the Earth's surface. That means I know one thing and only one thing about them. If I say the orbit is at an altitude of 22,000, so I know the statement is wrong. If that statement is wrong, I get to the answer very clearly by eliminating it, because all of those options have 4 in it. My answer over here is 1, 2 and 3 only. It's a very simple question. You just have to know the basic things about a geostationary orbit, which is something that we will deal in the class itself. This is how questions used to come previous to 2018. Very simple, direct. Even if it's a current affair question, they'll ask current affair directly. Okay, so this term has been in news. What is it related to? Give 4 options, mark it. Which means if you just went through your current affairs or your any compilation materials which are there, and you know which are all the popular compilation materials, what happens is you will easily score the science and tech questions. But obviously, UPSC didn't find it too much fun. UPSC was like, there's no joy in doing this. Why? Because everyone's getting all the science and tech questions correct. So now, post 2018, UPSC has changed the way they see science and tech questions. I'll let you in on this. So which means, instead of just asking you for the same question, which came, geostationary orbit, right now, they will not ask you about the orbit. They will ask about a satellite that's placed in the orbit, and they will ask something about the application of that satellite. Got it? So now it has moved from a factual thing to an application-oriented question. Better yet, they will make it even a little more difficult. They'll say, okay, so this geostationary satellite is there in that particular orbit. So now you know that same question can be made into an application level thing. Now, again, it gets a little bit more difficult, because ideally before 2018, when you had to appear, let's assume you had to appear for the exam in June. Students, and let's say it's June 2022. So students would study current affairs from maybe June 2021 or maybe even Jan 2021. That is almost 1.5 years of current affairs. And we would happily go write the exam and come back and get our S&T questions right. But now, this has changed into the idea where it's not current affairs that's getting picked. It's contemporary affairs. And contemporary affairs are not in the time span of 1.5 years. Contemporary affairs are more or so in the time span of almost 5 years or so. And at that point, I'm pretty sure most of you would not even have thought of UPSC preparation. You would be sitting very happily in your college, bunking classes, having the time of your life. You would not have thought of, okay, this particular thing, this missile or the rocket that India has just sent now will come as a question for me 5 years later. You would not have thought of it. So this is where the catch is, because a lot of new aspirants find this area difficult. They are not aware of what could be a new current affair, what could be a question current affair. They just go about mugging up the different compilations that are there, which only put about this particular year's current affair, but the question comes from something that would have been a discovery 5 years prior to that. Okay, and again, I'm stressing on the fact the 5 years prior discovery would have had 1 or 2 news articles this year. But we would ignore it because thinking it's an old thing. Why would we have to give our mind space to that? This is where UPSC swoops in and takes that and asks us a question. So again, keep 3 things in mind. Science and tech is important, that is beyond doubt. We have to have an application level knowledge about it. And the second thing is you have to follow or you have to be aware of contemporary affairs. So when I'm going to take your classes, this will be a prime concern for me. I will be including contemporary affairs. I will be including you might not have the current affairs which are there you would be seeing on a day-to-day basis. If I'm teaching you GM mustard, which you've not seen anyway in the current affairs, understand it's because it has the probability to be asked as a contemporary affair question. So I hope that part is clear. Now again, just to show you, not to scare you, but just to show you, we won't be solving this question at this point because you require a lot more knowledge about these concepts. But look at the kind of question. Earlier, UPSC would simply ask, which of these are caused by virus? And they would give malaria, mumps, TB, leprosy, 4 options. You just have to know basic knowledge. This was a 2021 question. Look at the level. Adenoviruses have single-stranded DNA genomes, whereas retroviruses have double-stranded DNA genomes. Common cold is sometimes caused by an adenovirus, whereas AIDS is caused by a retrovirus. Some people discovered that there is a new virus or different type of virus on the day of the exam, on that particular day. That's because they were not keen enough to follow a particular current affair that was going. Now, I'll just let you in on that. Regarding with COVID, there has been several series of vaccines that were developed by India. So you had Covaxin and Covishield. One of these viruses had used your adenovirus strain in it. And this is the reason why UPSC got fixated on adenovirus. But then we never bothered to look what adenovirus or retrovirus. Like adenovirus, retrovirus, all is virus only. So then what happened? UPSC picked on that. So we won't be solving this right now. But once my classes of this particular topic is over, you alone will be equipped to solve that particular question. Okay? Now, what can you do? This is the important part. You've heard what all I can do. Now it's the part of what you have to do. Ideally, let me tell you, science and tech for me is you follow the classes which are given to you, first thing. Follow it religiously because I will be taking it in a manner which you must have heard about this concept of LE5, which is explain it to me like I'm 5. I would be doing it in that manner for you because I want you to get your basics very, very clear. Along with that, what you can do is you can start reading your NCERTs, but please don't start reading NCERTs from your 6th, 7th classes and all. If you are fairly okay with understanding science, then you just have to read your class 10th NCERT, 9th and 10th NCERT, and class 12, there are topics of biotech and environment, those particular chapters. That comes in class 12 biology textbook. But then, if you feel you are absolutely weak in science and you don't remember anything that you had learnt in school, then only start from 6th class NCERT. get this very clear. Please don't start reading 6th class NCERT and being like, science is so easy. Science will be easy if you remember what you've studied in 6th, 7th and 8th. But not all of us are in that situation. Most of us forget what we've studied in our school level. So if you are in that situation, read from 6th, 7th, 8th onwards till these particular classes. But if you have been in touch with the subject, then just read 9th and 10th NCERTs and then 12th standard biology as your base. This, along with the class, would cover a lot of your static part. Coming to your current affairs, the next thing that you have to do is you have to follow a newspaper. It's a newspaper of your choice, Hindu, Indian Express, whatever is a newspaper. You have to start following the news. And when I don't want you to sit and mug up the entire newspaper, go through the specific areas where S&T topics would be there. Skim through the topics. Now, at this particular point, when you start your preparation, you will not be able to recognize which is an important topic or a non-important one. So, at this initial stage, you will end up reading a lot of all of these things. Don't worry, read it. Once our classes go forward, you will slowly start understanding, okay, that one was important. And one major thing is when you read anything, make it into a note. Digital note, e-note, paper note, whatever it is, make it into a note. You will not even be imagining the number of students who are at this particular point, which is like almost May 28th is the UPSC Prelims of this particular year. We have students right now sitting and trying to go through months and months of compilation where they've just highlighted things and they cannot even understand why they highlighted it. They're like, it's there in green ink, what is to do with it? But please don't make that mistake. Whatever you read, make it into notes. Specifically when it comes to your science and tech, I'm again stressing on the fact that when you read something, take a notebook, whatever current affair place that you're doing it. If you're doing it in an e-note, again, Evernote or something, do it there. But divide it into certain parts. Like for example, space, health and biotech, very, very important areas. IT, computer, communication, robotics, space, defense, health and biotech, any other miscellaneous technology that is there. This will include your nuclear technology, nanotechnology. All of this would come underneath this. In this manner, divide your notebook into these categories. Whenever you get a current affair, at least you will have this broad idea, right? Okay, this falls under health, this falls under space. You put it under that. In case, for example, you come across a government scheme related to science and tech, put it under the miscellaneous section. The point is, I want you to have a record of the current affairs that you're coming through. Again, when you're making notes, don't write pages and pages. There is one topic where they've discovered some new chimpanzee strain and you write one entire essay on it. No. What is it? If an article is small, you understand terms in it. Again, one very important thing. Whenever you come across a difficult word in science and tech, I want you to do a basic search of it first. Got it? And then go and maybe once it comes to the class, you will get it clarified. But do a basic search of it first because this is very important into building your curiosity in this particular subject. Apart from your newspapers, then once the India yearbook comes about, the selected chapters in it, communication, health, S&T, diary of national events, these particular chapters have to be read. Once all this is particularly done, you will be writing your mock tests and you will have to write several mock tests so that you know what all are the important current affairs coming in. This is what you have to do from your side. So follow the class. Read the NCERT, start reading your newspapers and collect the current affairs related to it. Don't think that, why newspapers at the end, they are going to publish compilation, I'll read compilation. You have to know compilation is just a shortcut. You follow shortcuts, you will get modest results. If you want high results, you will have to put in the work for it. Okay, so I hope with this it's a little bit more clear as to what is the strategy you have to follow for science and tech. We'll be soon seeing more and more of me. I'll be coming forward. I'll be taking up classes for you. I hope you can follow those classes diligently, and whenever you come across something difficult, don't blame the difficulty of it and let it go. Understand, see it like a challenge and try to get across it. So if you find the subject, a term in the subject, a topic in the subject difficult, take it up as a challenge and try to crack it. Don't go for the easy way out. The easy way out is not for the ideal UPSC aspirant. And come on, you all are not any mediocre aspirants or anything. You all are the ideal UPSC aspirants. So make sure you take the tough route, find out things, get an interest towards this subject. Don't stay back thinking this is a science and I'm not going to touch it at all. That will be a very, very wrong thing for you to do in this particular subject. So until we meet next time, take care and happy learning.